how does a person what are the causes of hasad, number one? And number two, what is the cure for hasad? What are the causes and what are the cures? But before I say that, I want to share with you this beautiful quote from Imam Al-Qurtubi. Al-Qurtubi talks about the envier, and he says, our scholars have said that the envier openly challenges Allah in 5 ways. 5 ways. Number one, he resents Allah's distribution of blessings, as if he's saying, my Lord, why have you given this to so-and-so and withheld it from me? Number two, he opposes Allah's actions. He opposes Allah's actions, as Allah has bestowed His favor upon someone, but the envier detests that Allah has shown favor to others. Number three, he seeks the failure of Allah's close allies, or at least desires for them to fail. I want you to imagine someone who is envying somebody because the envier could envy somebody who is successfully doing great work. Isn't that the case? Why is this person so popular? Why is this person so beloved? Why is this person's this halaqah more than mine? The scholars have sometimes more envy than regular people. The people in da'wah, you don't think they envy one another? And they're all doing da'wah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and yet they envy one another and they interfere with one another. And so he says he seeks the failure of Allah's close allies. Can you imagine that? I am showing envy to somebody whom Allah loves. Number four, he assists the enemy of Allah, shaitan, by harboring envy and hatred. And number five, he says the envier is characterized by the worst of traits, and this exposes him to the wrath of Allah. Al-Hasan al-Basri has an incredible quote. He says, I've never seen an oppressor who resembles the oppressed more than the envier. I've never seen an oppressor, he's the one doing wrong, but he sees himself the victim more than the envier. He's constantly burdened with sorrow and his tears never cease. He's engulfed in grief. He's engulfed in grief. So back to the causes of hasad. What are the causes of hasad? They are primarily two. Number one, the first is the envier admiring themselves. I think I'm worthy of this thing. Number two, the envier's disdain for the person they envy. So you're propping yourself up. I'm the one who deserves $1 million. I deserve it. I'm the one who should receive that. I'm the one who deserves this beautiful family. I'm the one who deserves all of this happiness. I'm the one who deserves it. And number two, disdain for the person that they envy. Why do they deserve it? Why did Allah give it to them? Okay, so that's the two. And that's like Iblis, who said, I am better than him. You created him from fire. You created me from fire and you created him from clay. That's self-admiration. I'm from fire and he's from clay. And the cure for envy is in two things. The first is knowledge and the second is action. The first is knowledge and the second is action. As for knowledge, it's to recognize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rizq has already been determined. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He distributed that rizq, He distributed it with perfect knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Zukhruf, verse 32, نحن قسمنا بينهم معيشتهم في الحياة الدنيا ورفعنا بعضهم فوق بعض درجات. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, نحن قسمنا, we have divided بينهم معيشتهم في الحياة الدنيا, between them, their معيشة, their livelihood in this life and the next. ورفعنا بعضهم فوق بعض درجات, and we have raised some of them above others in degrees and ranks. Allah chose for these people to be like this, and Allah chose for these people to be like that. Allah divided that perfectly. So that knowledge. And recognizing that, you know what? Sometimes you might be envious of somebody, feeling that they are not worthy. Then just look at the track record of everybody who felt the same. Iblis thought Adam was not worthy, and Adam was better than Iblis. Quraysh thought Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not worthy. They said, why was this Quran not revealed to one of us? Aren't we better? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala perfectly chooses every single time. And so when you see somebody has a blessing that you don't have, remember and rely on the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge is perfect and His wisdom is perfect. Number 2, the second, which is action, is that you should strive to curb your negative feelings. If your soul speaks to you with disdain for somebody, lift that person in your heart and give them the respect they deserve. And if your soul tempts you to want to wish that someone's blessing was removed, instead ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to increase their blessing. Oh my God, they're so beautiful. Oh Allah, increase them in beauty. Oh my God, their children are so perfect. Oh Allah, give them more perfect children. Why are you doing that? Because when you make that your habit, Shaitan's going to stop those whispers. Shaitan's going to be like, man, every time I cast that into their mind, they just make more dua for that person. And the dua of a person for their brother in their absence is accepted. Right? So, khalas, you're starting to curb that emotion bubbling up. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Any last reflections on Surah Al-Falaq?
Sure, when people are jealous of something, let's say somebody has a lot of money or car or family, they may not realize that their blessing for that person is also a test for that person. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed them with something, then He gave them responsibilities. And I may not realize that, what they have is their test. So asking for that test to be applied to me will be hurtful for me. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what tests I can go through and what tests other people can.
And you don't know how you would respond to that same test, right? You were talking earlier about how you don't know how a person's genetics plays even with regards to how they respond to certain impulses. I don't know how I would respond to that money. I don't know how I would respond with my family with that money. That might be a completely different experience. I don't know how I would respond to that pressure, that success in that corporate environment. I don't know. I don't know how to respond to those children. You don't know. And I think at times people, on the outside, we look at it with rose-colored glasses, whatever that blessing is. But there are challenges to that as well. Well said, yes.
This is just something we talked about a while ago, but if you do fear that someone has hassad towards you and they want you to lose something, that there's a verse in the Quran that if you're grateful for what you have, that Allah won't just secure it, He'll increase it. So shukr is actually the protection against.
Musa, I'm so proud of you right now. Inshallah. 100%. I forgot to mention that, but shukr, gratitude, is a protective fortress from hassad, gratitude. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. So if hassad is wanting for your blessing to be removed, then shukr is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guaranteeing to increase you. So what does it matter that a person wants for your blessing to be removed if shukr is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's way to increase you? So if you want Allah to increase your blessings, then one of the ways is to show gratitude for those blessings. So the question becomes, how do you show gratitude for those blessings? One of the ways that you show gratitude is by simply doing with that blessing what Allah allows for you to do with that blessing. So if Allah has given me health, that I use that health, that strength, in a way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me beauty, that I showcase that beauty to whom Allah loves, and I do not showcase that beauty to whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not love. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me knowledge, that I share it with those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would love for me to share it with. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me whatever blessing, that I do with it what Allah loves for me to do. Wealth, same thing. Yes, what other reflections we have to conclude Surah Al-Falaq, inshallah?
So when, we are told to share, like with your brother, wish what you wish for yourself. So what we've been blessed with, if we shared that with our brothers, then they will not feel like I don't have access to this. So the likelihood of them developing jealousy towards me would be less.
If you share?
If we share.
Perhaps. But at the end of the day, people have to learn to be content, because I'm not responsible, even Islamically, I'm not responsible to share everything I have with my brother. Right? You worked hard, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed you with certain things. The right of the poor on my wealth is the zakat. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has legislated. the right of people on my wealth is not 50% or 40% or 30% or 20% or 10%. The zakat. That's it. Beyond that, they just have to be content with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them. And Allah knows best. Yes.
This is something interesting. I don't know if it's just our culture, but some people take it so far as to lie about not having certain things because they're so afraid of hassad. So they'll be like, well, we don't make any money at all, but they're really making like thousands every month. Or they'll be like, oh, we don't have this blessing, and they're constantly making that their
Yeah,
agenda.
so that to me is a person fearing hasad more than trusting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the adhkar and things of that nature. Because you're doing that which is forbidden just because you're afraid of hasad. So again, I make the adhkar and then I'm okay with whatever else. And these things are always judgment calls because again, I want you to imagine everybody who's got a healthy marriage never talks about it because they're afraid of hasad. What is the imagination of the Muslim community going to be when it comes to the idea of marriage? Because we know everyone who's got a broken marriage talks about it. Everybody who had a bad marriage talks about it to 10, 15, 20 people. They're always talking to people about it. And then you have the people who have beautiful, amazing marriages. They're very protective of it and they never tell anybody about it. What is the impression that people are going to have regarding marriage? Right? It's going to be very bad. Right? And so at some point I don't hide the great things that I have, especially if it can be something that is educational for other people. I can model for other people what healthy relationships look like, what happiness looks like. I can model for other people the ways for them to enter into this career, and I can show people how I became successful in entrepreneurship, and I can show people how I became successful in my business and in my work and in my career and all of these types of things. I don't hide all of this out of fear of hasad. I make my adhkar, and then I also show people the way when I feel like I am ready to do so. But we shouldn't not share our successes just because we're afraid of hasad. And Allah knows best.